Why do lesbian couples have the highest divorce rates, while gay male couples have the lowest? The stereotype is that lesbians commit hard and early, after not knowing the person very well. Gay men have the opposite stereotype of being very slow to commit. If you take a lot more time to be sure, then you tend to be pretty sure when you go through with it, and that helps reduce divorce rates. The other part is that women are more likely to leave when unhappy, and when it's not working out, than men are. Ah yes, the old joke. Where do lesbian couples go on their second date? To the U-Haul place. Women initiate divorce far more often than men, so double the women in a relationship and double the odds of divorce. Women are more likely to make a change when something isn't working for them, whereas men are more likely to try and tough things out, even if they aren't quite right. I think it's important to remember that gay and lesbian couples have only been able to be married in the US for 11 years, so there isn't a long data set to draw from. This could all change drastically over time. Lesbians have the highest rate of divorce, not lesbian couples. They often realize the truth about themselves while in relationships with men and have to, you guessed it, divorce because of that. Why haven't hackers deleted student loans? Is it their ironclad cybersecurity? Are the risks too high? Is it just not profitable, so it wouldn't be worth it? Because deleting a database entry doesn't delete the legally binding promissory note you signed. The debt exists on paper, in contracts, and in court records. Hacking doesn't erase ink. Hacks like that are absolutely trivial to defend against because time is on the side of the defending banks. All they need is to have one cold backup in a safe somewhere, and the worst a hacker could do is inconvenience them for a few days. Plus, the courts would be on the bank's side anyway. Having a written record of a debt deleted doesn't make the debt disappear legally, it just changes the dynamics. Deleting loans is not so easy. This is kind of the reason why double-entry accounting was invented. If you delete some money in one place, the money in other places stops adding up, and somebody can basically reconstruct the missing part by looking at where the holes are. Okay, I am reading a lot of comments about not erasing ink, and I get that. But what about hacking and adding payments? You can't delete the loans, but could a hacker just say we are all paid up, add a bunch of payment transactions? The company or Department of Education will catch it during their next audit because you've only inserted a record into the transaction ledger for the loan, but there was never money received, so the bank records won't match the loan ledger. This imbalance may even trigger an audit automatically through transaction reconciliation processes that typically run nightly. Are there extinct flavors we'll never taste again? There was a grape blight in 19th century France that killed many varieties of grapes used to make wine. Most of the grapevines in Europe died. European grapes are now usually grown on grafts. Their rootstock no longer survives because the blight still exists. Species were saved through grafting, but there are countless little varieties of wine that were made for hundreds or even thousands of years that all went away forever in a matter of a few years in the 1800s. A few of those old varieties survived here in Australia because colonials brought them and planted them in the early 1800s, and we've been making wine from them ever since. The same goes for the rare Italian Ligurian bees on Kangaroo Island in South Australia. They are considered the world's last pure population. Garum is a fermented fish sauce that was used in Phoenician cooking, ancient Greek cooking, and later by the Romans. The original type of fish used for this condiment has become extinct. I believe a cooking historian made a close, accurate version of this recipe. You can kind of still make it today. The only detail is that we don't know what type of fish it was. The Ansalt pear is widely considered the most delicious extinct pear, often hailed in the late 19th century as a fruit of the highest quality. First cultivated in France in 1863, it was prized for its sweet, buttery, and incredibly aromatic flavor. It disappeared in the early 20th century because the trees were inconsistent, unreliable, and difficult for commercial farmers to grow. I love pears, and it makes me sad that I'll never get to taste this. There are varieties of a lot of fruits that we'll never know the taste of. At one time, there were over 17,000 varieties of apples. Today, there are around 4,500. Denied proposal? What next? A few months ago, my boyfriend said that when he was younger, he thought that if someone said no to your engagement proposal, you just continue in a relationship like everything was before and propose again later when both parties are ready. The analogy he used was if you play a game that has levels and you fail one level, you just go back to that level and start again. I actually laughed so hard because I thought he was kidding, and I've made fun of him ever since because I find it adorable and hilarious. Tonight, when I made a joke about this, he said, "You know what? I think we need to crowdsource more opinions, because I bet people agree with me, or at least more people than you think." In short, if someone rejects your proposal, do you just assume you're going to resume the relationship as is? It's a trick question. You don't assume anything. You talk it over and decide together how to proceed. I think it probably depends on why the proposal was rejected and how the person who proposed feels about it. If you're very young, or the relationship is very new, or you're going through huge changes in life and say, "I want to say yes, but I don't know if it's a good idea to make major life decisions when I've just been diagnosed with cancer," or whatever, that's fair. If it's the kind of thing where they wonder, "Are you not ready to be married?" or "Not ready to be married to me?" or that if it was meant to be, you should be able to say yes by now, then it can definitely end things. Sometimes it tells you how the person feels about the relationship, that they can't commit. Sometimes it tells you where they are in their life at that exact moment. It depends on what kind of rejection it is. Is it a surprise but bad timing? Like you don't want to have a long engagement and a wedding just doesn't make sense. Then it's a matter of a communication lapse, a situation where communication around when a proposal should happen hasn't properly happened. Yeah, that doesn't have to be a relationship ender, just a really hard conversation. But that's the best case. In most cases, it shows a profound difference in goals or future plans with a partner. It should be the end of a relationship if two folks are that mismatched. Someone I know proposed on a beautiful out-of-country trip after being together for several years and owning a house together. She said no, and they continued the vacation. They stayed together for another year and eventually broke up. Why does being drunk mean you can't consent to sex, but doesn't absolve you of other intoxicated actions or decisions? Say drunk driving, as an example. In sex, we say you aren't in your right mind to make certain decisions and are not bound to them. It's not your fault, you didn't know better, and so on. But in other drunk situations, we don't have that same attitude. You're held fully responsible for your own drunk decisions and actions. Not saying either one or the other is good or okay or anything, just interested in the discussion. And not just from a legal standpoint, socially as well. Generally, when intoxicated, you aren't responsible for yourself if you're potentially harmed, but you are even more accountable if you harm someone else. Why? Simply because drinking is a weakness, but not an excuse. This way, no one can blame the victim by saying, "Well, they were drunk anyway," and no one can try to dodge punishment by intentionally drinking before messing up. I think it comes down to agency. If you get yourself drunk and do something bad, you're the one who made the decision to get drunk and put yourself in a situation to do something bad. But if someone does something bad to you, like assault or a bad contract, then they're the one taking the initiative to take advantage of your state. The law does not say a person cannot consent simply because they are drunk. Generally, the only time someone is too drunk to consent is when they are passed out or incapacitated, in which case it is obvious from the offender's point of view that they could not consent. You need to distinguish being a victim from doing stupid things. The core concept of consent here is that the fact that you don't oppose the sex does not mean you are not being taken advantage of, or that you are not being assaulted. You can still have consensual sex while drunk, but when you are having sex with a drunk person, you cannot assume that they actually consent. Simpler example. At a bar, you can shout, "Next round on me," and spend a stupid amount of money on making friends. Stupid, but consensual. But if, during a drunk discussion, somebody convinces you that you should give him your car, and you agree, and they even prepare the contract, and you, blackout drunk, will sign it, you will be at least taken advantage of, and in most cases, that deal would be nullified in court. How much blood do I actually lose during my period? Because it's sure as heck not 2 to 4 tablespoons as it says online. I looked up how much blood I lose on my period out of curiosity, and it said 2 to 4 tablespoons, which seems, to put it as gracefully as I can, nonsense. How can less than 1 tablespoon of anything a day somehow soak through multiple tampons and pads? I'm in my 20s, normal height, normal weight, if that matters. Edit. Perhaps I should have mentioned this, but I know how much a tablespoon is, and I can eyeball a tablespoon pretty well. eating disorder history and all. I also have a decent idea how blood absorbs in bandages, clothes, sheets, and so on. I'm a CNA at a hospital and would an EMT for a time. Given all that, I'm for darn sure losing more than 2 to 4 tablespoons of fluid. It says that because period blood is not just blood. Blood only partially makes up what comes out during your period. From Google, the common, often cited average of 2 to 3 tablespoons, 30 to 50 milliliters of blood during a menstrual cycle refers only to the pure blood component, not the total fluid volume. The total fluid, menstrual fluid, is typically higher because it consists of blood mixed with cervical mucus, uterine tissue, and vaginal secretions. And I'm not a medical professional, so I don't know how much of period blood is actual blood, and I'm well aware of how incorrect Google can be. However, based on my own period experience, I know that menstrual fluid is not just blood. I used Google to find a better explanation of what it is made up of because I'm bad at explaining things. Which makes it an absolutely useless figure to cite in patient advice contexts. No woman is sitting in her bathroom with a chemistry set, determining the blood content of her menstrual fluid. They should be telling us how much liquid to expect, not how much of one single component of that liquid. Best bet, use a menstrual cup, and you can actually measure your flow in ml. It's how I actually got doctors to listen to me, because I came in with hard numbers showing I was bleeding the volume of a full can of Coke some months. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, give it a like. It really helps. Subscribe for more, and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one.